All right, Craig. Well, thank you for expressing the understanding of how we establish agency through a listing agreement with a seller and what that agency contract means. Obviously, there is so much more information we could cover about the listing contract, the benefits to the seller, the protection for the brokerage, the responsibilities of the brokerage. It's a class in and of itself. Today, we want to talk about how that lawsuit affects us as Utah realtors, and compensation was the main point of the argument. And so we've covered that, and we'll probably get a little more detail. But we didn't talk specifically about buyer agency and how that works. So I would like to start first with the buyer agency contract that we have in the state of Utah. The first question is that commonplace throughout the United States?
Yeah, it is. It is something that's required in Utah. So whenever you represent a buyer in Utah, you need to have something in writing to define the scope of that representation. Not every state requires a written buyer broker agreement, and so that's something that we've had for decades in Utah, where it makes it really clear the buyer what they're getting when they have a representation, when they have a realtor representing them on the buy side.
Okay, so why did Utah make that a priority? And why has that been a standard practice for many of the professionals that are going to hear this video, possibly for their entire career? They've known nothing different. Why have we made that a priority for so long?
I think first and foremost, it is a way to protect the public. It is a benefit to the public to know exactly what they're receiving when they receive representation from a buyer side. So I think that's first and foremost. There's representation and protection for the public. Second, it sets clear expectations. What am I getting for the representation that I'm receiving? So it sets that clear expectation. And what's interesting is that it also sets really clear expectations with regards to compensation. Okay, we talked about on the list side that the listing broker uh, may offer compensation on the MLS. In the buyer broker agreement that the UAR has, it makes it explicitly clear that the buyer is responsible to pay the buyer brokerage fee. Under the buyer broker agreement, it makes it explicitly clear who's responsible, but at the same time allows a mechanism for the buyer to have that obligation satisfied, which is pro consumer. It's pro buyer. It allows the buyer to navigate all of the difficulties and details and just the anxiety that comes with buying oftentimes the largest purchase in their history, right? They're, typically it's the largest financial obligation that they make in their lifetimes. To have someone to walk through that, right? And I know that this isn't a video about the benefits of using a buyer's agent. We're talking about the commission, but I have to talk about that, right? A buyer having representation to walk them through that process, there is value to it. There is value to using a Utah realtor, and using a buyer broker agreement that the UAR provides makes it clear, what am I paying for, and how can that be satisfied?
It's important to understand that the contract protects both parties involved in this. It protects the consumer, it protects the brokerage, it protects the agent. And but people don't come to us and say, I want to use you because of a buyer agency contract or a listing contract. They came to the professional because of services. The contract helps protect the parties because of that. And so those services aren't going to go out of demand immediately because of this lawsuit. I think it's important for Utah realtors to understand the demand for your services have not changed. Buyers and sellers want a professional to help them with the transaction. And it's also, I think, important to state that the Utah Association of Realtors and every local association throughout the state of Utah has never, ever dictated what number should go on any of these contracts. Been no discussion about it. There's been no memos. There's been no backdoor meetings about what compensation is offered, because that is up to private brokerages. And brokerages on occasion may allow their agents to choose the number, but at the end of the day, the brokerage always approves it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. So just like on the listing side, on the buy side, it's negotiable, right? They are not pre-filled in, they are blank. So it's left up to the respective brokerages to decide with their buyers as to, okay, what is the value of their services, and that's negotiable between the respective parties. And so that's the beauty of that system. It's up to those respective parties.
Excellent.